Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are California dreaming, baby. So, let's look at our commander. We're running William Sims. I know it's the fat electrician guys, but it is William Sims with Paolo de Revel, Andrew Cunningham, Flammable Cannoneer, Crisscross, Marksmanship, Reaching Out XXL, and Fight Fire with Fire. You can swap Crisscross for gyrating drill bits. I just never go in and change my builds, and I recently took gyrating drill bits off for my Iowa class so that they can reach their maximum speed that got buffed. But yeah, anyway, just figure I'd throw that out there as why I'm running Crisscross. Also get you faster turret traverse, yeah. So there's that. Anyway, we are running the AA Guns Mod 2. We are running the Propulsion Mod 2. The reason I run Propulsion Mod on this ship is because it turns well enough on its own, and being able to get up to the whopping 18.5 knots that this thing can go is pretty fun, right? Anyway. Yeah, so we are running the old flag, so we need to swap that out. We get back to the new flag. And, yeah, there's really not a whole lot special about it. 60,300 hit points with a 40% torp reduction because of the big torpedo blister and 13% fire resistance. For main batteries, we have the 356 millimeter 50 caliber Mark 7s, aka 14-inch 50 caliber Mark 7s. We have 15.6 kilometers of main battery firing range initially, but with this build we're out to 17.5. Reload time 28.4 with this build. Main battery turret traverse is 40 seconds with this build. Now imagine if we didn't take the extra turret traverse. Like, these turrets are just the worst. When it comes to American turret traverse, this is one of the worst that you'll ever see. Shell grouping though, 1.98, which is pretty solid, especially for the tier. Max range, vertical dispersion, all that stuff you guys can read. 5,000 HE shell maximum damage with a 30% chance to set fires, and they pin 59 millimeters. AP shell maximum damage of 10,500 with 45-60 pin angles, so just standard pin angles. Secondaries we don't really care about because we're not going to really ever use them. 127 millimeter Mark 32, 16 of those, reaching out to only 4 kilometers, and yeah, moving on. AA Defense, this is the California's calling card. So the California we have in game is post-refit. The Tennessee in game is California's sister ship prior to the refit after the attack on Pearl Harbor. So this is post-rework, which is why it's got so much AA. 127 millimeter Mark 32 dual-purpose secondaries. You get 16 of those doing 105 damage per second, reaching out to 6 kilometers because we did take the AA module at the first slot, which gives us extra range. Then the 40 millimeter Bofors Mark II, you get 56 of those, doing 273 damage per second, reaching out to 4.2 kilometers. And then the 20 millimeter Oerlikon Mark 20s, you get 82 of those, doing 343 damage per second, reaching out to just 2.4 kilometers. So while it does have a lot of AA, it has to be up close and personal before it starts shooting those things down, with the exception of the flak from the whatchamacallits, the secondaries. Maximum speed, we have 20.5 knots with this build because we're not running gyrating drill bits. We are actually limited to 18 knots, so there's that. And then concealment, 13.5 by sea, 11.3 by air, guaranteed as always 2 at 12.2 kilometer smoke firing penalty. Here's my stats for the California overall. I don't play it a whole lot, but I have played it a few times through the years. It's a good ship. I don't think anybody would ever argue that. Armor on this thing is always going to be interesting. So we have the 26 millimeter bow, which is standard for most tier 5s. Some of them have an extended belt. Most Americans do not. So 26 millimeters, anything that is 15 inches and above, overmatches, go straight through, and hurts. That being said, we do have those gigantic torpedo blisters we talked about, so you do get quite a bit of extra side armor, and angled well, that can help, but the problem is, again, very flat armor, same issue that you run into with Minnesota, Kansas. Even if you angle relatively well, the shells can find spots, and you can see where the torpedo blister was added over the original hull, so that adds extra catch points for the shells to be pinning into. So keep that in mind. But overall, it played well. This thing is pretty nasty. So, with all of that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Tears of the Desert in California. Now, this is the weird shortened version of Tears of the Desert, and that's going to cause me some trouble. But, before we get into that, I just want to say I'm back in Ohio. Yay! I never thought I'd say that before, but man, it was a brutal weekend. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been going out on the weekends, working out of state and stuff, different projects. Not last weekend, the weekend prior, I went to Chambersburg, finished up that warehouse that we were working on, putting some epoxy floors down. And then this weekend, we went out to Perryville, Maryland, over to Port Deposit area to work on a gigantic warehouse out there. And we got the epoxy floors and stuff down there, but we had some really long days to get it all done with just the three of us. But we managed to get her done. And man, that is a long drive home. It is a 7.5-hour drive home from Perryville, Maryland. Mainly because we have to like keep stopping for... it ends up being longer than that, but we have to keep stopping because the box truck that we take... I was driving the shop van, which is like a big Dodge Sprinter van. And then we have a box truck that has most of the equipment and stuff in it. And yeah, that shop truck guzzles the fuel. So we have to keep stopping for that. But, that being said, we're in the middle of the map, and I'm going to make some pretty questionable decisions early on. First of all, not recognizing that this is the shortened version of the map, I've put myself in a pickle, and I now am forced to turn broadside in front of everybody on their team, which is never ideal. And you can see there, California is firing his guns, ready to shoot at me. We got, like, at minimum 3 battleships shooting me, and they are all very accurate. So early on, we lose a lot of health in this one. And you're probably thinking, well, this is a write-off. Might as well just not even play the rest of this game. And a lot of people have that mentality. I am not one of them. If you've ever watched me in the past, just because I get hit early on like this and end up playing a little bit more passively, doesn't mean that this game is over. In fact, it's far from it. I am going to turn this game from a miserable... Oh my god, look at that shot. Woo! California out there to touch people. Blam! But, yeah, we get an extra gun around the corner. I don't think we end up hitting any of these. I think they... Oh, one shell got through, but it doesn't hit. Anyway. But yeah, if you've ever seen me in these situations before where I get absolutely kerblastered early on the match, a lot of times what'll happen is I end up playing better than I normally do. I end up being forced to play a little bit more passively, paying attention to situations that I can get a hold of that aren't going to lead to me taking a bunch of damage in return. And what that ends up being is a prime recipe for being able to carry matches, despite losing so much health in the match early on. By putting ourselves in a position that we're going to put ourselves into, we're actually going to give our team the best possible chance to win the match, which is the goal from the get-go, right? Now, right off the bat, we're 2.5 minutes into the match, and we had our first kill. The enemy battleship goes down. 2.5 minutes! Normally, half my team's dead by now. But this is going to be one of those rare games that actually comes down to the wire, and both teams have a legitimate shot to win this game. And you can see that our Warspite gets dev struck. See how quickly things can turn? So it took 2.5 minutes to get the first kill, and then all of a sudden 2 more people on my team have died since. Which is silly, but it happens. Now, we have 1 heal left. We've already used 2 of our heals, and we're going to try to put ourselves in position. Now, I see this, I think it's an Astorius, or maybe it's Kajikduin. I think this one is the Kajikduin, or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, he's about to have a beautiful look at getting rid of the enemy destroyer right off the get. And I'm going to try to get around this island to help him. But, yeah, you can see Getty comes around the corner. He is not prepared for the cruiser. Cruiser takes a long time to actually shoot this guy. I don't know what this cruiser was looking at, but this man takes so long to shoot him. There you go. First shot. I mean, he's already had a chance to shoot the cruiser and drop torpedoes before the cruiser actually took his first shot, which is crazy to me. But unfortunately for the Getty, I'm about to come around the corner with 12 American armor-piercing shells ready for his broadside. He does turn away at the last second, but I don't know if that helped him or not, because we still absolutely smash him for over a third of his health. And then, from then, it's just the cruiser that's able to get rid of him at this point. Now, paying attention to the crossfire is something I try to point out all the time. Like, if I have a crossfire on people, they have a crossfire back. That's usually how that works, right? But here you can see Zara's trying to sneak around the corner. We're hurried up. We're trying to get the shot off before the mountain. We do get the shot out. We've got at least 3 guns that are going to clear, and that Zara's going to have a bad day. Bloop! There goes all his health. But, of course, in true Spartan fashion, we got to leave him with just enough to continue being a problem. And you'll see what I mean for the rest of the match. But Gorky, on the other hand, Gorky sees that I just almost obliterated the guy in front of him, and he's angled. He's trying to reverse at an angle, and unfortunately for him, that's not going to help you, Sunshine. I overmatched pretty much your entire ship. So sitting there like this is almost a recipe for disaster every time. And we get the plunging fire citadel through the bow. You gotta love it. But as he goes down, we get our dev strike, and now look at these juicy broadsides, right? Like this is the quintessential like wet dream. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I should have stopped in this. You can see just as about the time I'm getting my first shot, this Scharnhorst decides to turn. And then these torpedoes come out of nowhere. I was not expecting those. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to that, because we know there's going to be 2 destroyers left in this match on the enemy team. One of them is going to get themselves spotted and killed away from me. The other one is going to be unknown for a long time where he's at, which is not ideal. But as I try to put myself in a crossfire position, we're going to end up having to wait. You can see I'm kind of looking at the Zara over there who's thinking about reversing beyond the rock, but he doesn't end up doing it. So then we switch targets back over to the Scharnhorst, who is back to being broadside to me, which is perfect. We're going to go ahead and see if we can't smack those broadsides. Now, as I push in, I should have probably, like, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is I want to get closer to the island in front of me. But in my head, I see this destroyer out here going away from me, and for whatever reason, I just don't, another destroyer doesn't exist at this point. Despite the fact that I'm spotted right now. Yeah, that would be a big tip-off, usually. If you're spotted and nobody can spot you, then there's a destroyer, right? But you can see I keep blinking out of being spotted, so in my mind, here's what's happening. The Scharnhorst is spotting me over the top of the island. Maybe my mast is just high enough to go over the edge of the island, because you'll notice here, I just disappeared. I'm like, okay, good. So it was, in fact, the Scharnhorst spotting me, is what I thought. And so I'm moving into a position where I can utilize island cover. Battleships can do that, believe it or not. But battleships can, in fact, utilize island cover if necessary. But the main thing here is we've got to defend the caps, right? We've got the points lead. So as long as we defend the caps, we're golden. Now, I'm going to be requesting support from this destroyer behind me at Bravo for a while. And this guy's not going to do anything. He captured that base, and that is his entire existence at this point. But we get a good hit there on the broadside of the Scharnhorst. We swing around to get the rear guns on target before this Scharnhorst can shoot us. We get the shot out, and we go dark. Which, again, proves the fact that it was the destroyer spotting, right? So here I get in, I get a nice shot on the Scharnhorst. I've got the front guns ready again, so we are just going to pummel this Scharnhorst into submission if he stays broadside. And you can see, I mean, we are tearing him up, right? We're inside a decently close that there's not a lot of dispersion, especially from an accurate battleship like this. And this poor Scharnhorst is just getting absolutely farmed. Now, again, this is the part where you should be thinking about the enemy destroyer, right? We got a beautiful broadside look at the Zara, and I'll be honest, I thought this guy was dead, right? He's 9.6 kilometers away. I don't remember what the torp range is on Italian cruisers, but I do remember that they are very slow, and that
Problem solved, sir.
They can sometimes have, like, sneaky range, right? So in my head, when what happens next happens, like, I don't think anything of it. I figure I'm okay. Now, I just put out a single fire, all right, which we all know is a bad idea. But given the circumstance, I figured I was pretty safe, right? If I'm putting out a single fire and I'm in a position where I'm not going to be spotted and not going to be shot, like, I figured that that's a pretty good time to put out a single fire. But the problem with that is our damage control's on cooldown, and we're about to take a shot at the Scharnhorst over the island with the rear turrets. Now, this is something else that you got to be aware of which turrets are loaded and which ones are about to be fired, because it'll allow you to shoot through gaps like that, even when the game tells you you're not able to shoot it. The game is basing it off of your like front guns, right? So the fact that we were reversing, and I see these triple torps, and I'm thinking, oh, we're good. And then this destroyer decides to run into the side of me, which does shove me towards it a little bit more, but not that big of a deal. And that's when Akatsuki comes around the corner, 3 kilometers away. I'm like, oh, great. And he just knocked out my engine, so propulsion mod's not really going to help me here. So what I'm trying to do is get skinny, and then, of course, California takes a hit on me, so I'm going to go ahead and take another shot at him. And, I mean, you can see this guy's spreading the love out pretty well, but there's just not a whole lot I can do about this. I waited too long to be able to take the turn, so we end up taking 2 torps and going down, which is a tragedy. An actual tragedy. But that also puts my team in an awkward position where we do have the lead. The enemy has to come to them, but the enemy is technically outnumbering us. Now, if you're the Fubuki in this situation, right, you have done absolutely nothing since capturing the base. And I mean that. Like, he has done nothing since capturing the base. He's just sat there for this entire amount of time doing absolutely nothing. And then when push came to shove, he didn't even really do any damage to the enemy destroyer when I had him spotted, right? But he's going to run away here, but the destroyer is going to chase him. Now, at this point, you've got to do some math in your head, and this is where, this is another little tip for everybody. When you see an enemy's health bar, every line that they have is 5,000 health, okay? So when we go back over here to look at the Fubuki who's about to get involved with this enemy Akatsuki, you can see that the Akatsuki has less than 5,000 hit points. Well, if he would ever look at this ship, anyway. But yeah, the Fubuki starts with 15,000 hit points in this engagement, or close to it. And then he struggles to find his ability to hit the enemy Akatsuki. And these guys have the same guns, same rate of fire. They hurt each other pretty well. But again, you only need to land a couple of shells to finish this guy off, right? So just take your time and aim. Like, just because he's a tier 6 and you're a tier 5, it doesn't mean anything in this situation. I took all of the health off him. So, fortunately, the Astorius at the very edge of the map, who's run into the border and just going to stern tank the enemy for the rest of the match, he's able to hit him from downtown. Yet, this destroyer was 5 kilometers away from him, couldn't hit him. That's just the way it goes, right? But the main thing is he's dead. And that leaves just 2 battleships and a cruiser left. The Zara, we know, is low health because we left him with nothing, right? So he's an easy kill for just about anything. The California is also relatively low, but he's actually going to survive a little bit longer. And then the Scharnhorst is also low. So we did everything that we could to try to give our team the best possible chance. And you can see that the I think it's the Scharnhorst here is actually taking shots at the Astorius. And again, Astorius is just sitting on the border, completely avoiding getting shot back. Which is funny because, oh, that was California, sorry. But, yeah, as he takes some more shots at Cali, I thought the Cali was going to die here, but the Cali ends up surviving. The Scharnhorst and the Zara ends up dead, and you can see Sims ends up killing the Zara, which is just a tragedy if you're the Zara. Of all the things to get gunned down by, you get gunned down by the Sims. But Sims gets shot a couple of times here by the Scharnhorst. Am I backwards? Am I thinking that the California was going to survive? Maybe the California dies and the Scharnhorst ends up being the last one. Yeah, so California goes down. The Scharnhorst ends up being the last one. But the good news is there's no chance that they win this at this point. The Scharnhorst is not going to be able to kill this destroyer, the other destroyer, plus the Asturias. There's just no way, right? There's not enough time left, and on top of that, we have the points lead. So all we got to do is not die. And I don't know what this Sims was doing for the entire game, but he seemed to at least understand what he needed to do to get the W. We had a pretty solid game overall and put ourselves in a decent position. Unfortunately, just lost track of where the destroyer was and got ourselves torpedoed by what I thought was a Zaratorp and that I would be okay, and then ended up getting ambushed by the freaking Akatsuki with no way to move, which is just tragedy. But again, it's just a fun match. Like, I like matches that go down to the wire, that you don't know exactly who's going to win until it's over. The Sims is actually going to make a questionable call here. Again, there's no reason to fire your guns in this situation. Like, what are you going to get? You got less than a minute left. The enemy battleship's right here. It's a Scharnhorst, so it's got good secondaries as well. And he's going to come around the corner and just take a couple of pot shots at him. But he does so not in a dumb way. He doesn't just open fire in open ground. He does it right as he's about to go behind the next island. So by the time that the guns for the Scharnhorst turn and actually fire, you'll see that he actually just shoots the island instead. But again, like, the amount of damage that you're getting out of an exchange like that is minimal. Like, you're going to get maybe 1,000 damage, a couple of thousand damage, maybe. Is it really worth it? No. Just don't fire your guns and let the game end. There's no reason to put any sort of... Like, we weren't going to lose. Even if he dies, we don't lose that match, right? We're up by 500 points because we've had the caps for the entire game. Which, again, just reiterates paying attention to the caps. But you can see a solid W by the team. A little bit of an L for me. Because that could have been an even better game. But 157,000 damage, Dev Strike, High Caliber, Confederate, top of the leaderboard, 2,762 base XP. Not too shabby. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.